So here in this video we will showcase the ships of the Terran Empire of Star Trek. This is a human empire from the mirror universe, where humanity has emerged as the dominant species in the Alpha Quadrant of the galaxy and has taken over much of the place. They have conquered, enslaved, and are ruling over the Vulcans, Romulans, Klingons, and many more. So although this mirror universe empire do use starships that are more or less the same as the ones seen with the Federation Starfleet, there are quite a few though that are solely their original designs and have no twins in the Prime Universe, or if they do, they were originally built by them, the Terran Empire. So yeah, I would admit that there are many here that are from Star Trek Online, but there are still a couple of them which are from the live action series which are canon. So here are the biggest unique starships of the Terran Empire in Star Trek. Let's get banging. At number 10 we have the Mobius-class. The Star Trek Online Mobius-class Temporal Destroyer is basically a mirror universe twist on the peaceful Wells-class timeship, but this was built to be much more aggressive and combat focused. It keeps a sleek futuristic temporal ship shape with a long, thin body and Delta-style wings, but instead of smooth Federation elegance, it looks sharper and more threatening, like it was designed to intimidate rather than to observe. The nose is split into a kind of like a fang shape instead of a clean point, and its wings angle forward in a predatory way. It also has a red hull with purple accents and familiar Terran Empire markings. Unlike the Wells-class time vessel used for protecting and studying the timeline, the Mobius-class is clearly built for combat, equipped with weapons and systems that can fight while still using temporal technology like the Mannheim device. Energy effects flare from parts of its hull when it activates these systems, and lore-wise, it is said to be a 29th century mirror universe vessel, recovered and then stripped down to fit more standard systems. Number 9. San's ship. In Star Trek Section 31, San's ship is shown as a strange and very unusual vessel from the Terran Empire, and it doesn't really match anything we normally see in the Federation fleet. It has sharp angular features and dark aggressive design which fits the mirror universe more than the Prime Universe. The weird part is that we barely get any clear info about its size or full capabilities, and we mostly see just the bridge, which looks oddly empty and minimal. It's equipped with strong weapons like the photon torpedoes and shields, and so it's clearly a serious warship, but it also feels like a one-of-a-kind or rarely seen experimental class rather than a standard ship. Because of how little crew we actually see, and how quickly it is destroyed, it ends up feeling like a mysterious Terran Empire specimen that doesn't really exist in Starfleet or Federation records at all. Number 8. The Monitor class. This starship is from the mirror universe. It was seen in Star Trek Online. It is basically a heavily upgraded, more militarized version of the Federation's Nebula-style science ship design, but this one here is unique because it was twisted for warfare for the Terran Empire. Its shape is familiar but imposing, a white saucer, a secondary hull underneath, and multiple pylons holding warp nacelles, plus a central spine carrying a large mission pod that doubles as a fighter hangar for Terran Valkyrie squadrons. What makes the Monitor class stand out is how much firepower and special tech it carries compared to its peaceful-looking frame. It uses Agony Phaser arrays and photon torpedoes. It can also mount dual cannons, and it is designed to disrupt enemy shields by using automated heavy Tetrian emitters. It also blends carrier capabilities with miracle worker systems, meaning it can heal, adapt, and enhance itself during combat while launching fighter squadrons. With warp, transwarp, and slipstream travel, plus modular upgrades, it is a highly flexible and a dangerous warship. Number 7. The Klein-class. The Klein-class Temporal Destroyer in Star Trek Online is basically the next step up from the earlier mirror universe temporal warship like the Mobius-class. This one was built in the 29th century and was designed to be more tactical, flexible, and combat ready. It keeps the idea of a sleek timeship, but instead of being just fast and advanced, it is more focused on battlefield control and adaptability. That means it can shift between different combat roles more easily, using its layout and bridge officer setup to handle both damage and support style temporal abilities. Even though it comes from the mirror universe, it carries that same stolen future tech vibe that was seen in the Prime Universe as well, like advanced time travel systems mixed with heavy weapons and Starfleet engineering, but in a more aggressive way. It can access temporal operative abilities, which lets it to manipulate time-based effects in battle, and this makes it extremely dangerous. Number 6. The Lexington-class Dreadnought. This cruiser dreadnought from Star Trek Online is a powerful 25th century heavy warship used by both the Terran Empire in the Mirror Universe and later adapted for the Federation and Kitoma Alliance service in the Prime Universe. It evolved from the Yorktown-class design, meaning it keeps the large modern starship structure but upgrades it into something far more combat-focused and intimidating. In the Mirror Universe, ships like the ISS Lexington and the ISS Enterprise F were refitted into this class, often under harsh Imperial command changes and political power struggles. What really defines the Lexington-class Dreadnought is its sheer firepower and size. It is a Dreadnought Cruiser built around an Agony Phaser Spinal Lance, a massive forward-mounted weapon that can punch through enemy defenses in a single concentrated blast. Combined with its heavy shielding, advanced systems and modular Odyssey family design compatibility, it becomes a flexible but extremely dangerous flagship-style vessel. Number 5. The Paradox class. This temporal dreadnought in Star Trek Online is one of the most extreme examples of a Mirror Universe super warship, basically built to feel like a boss-level version of a science dreadnought. It combines the time tech from a far future Terran Empire with heavy combat systems, creating a ship that is both massive and surprisingly agile for its size. Even though it looks like a bulky dreadnought, it is more designed to move and respond like a much smaller vessel, which makes it very dangerous in battle. Like the other temporal destroyers and dreadnoughts, instead of just relying on traditional weapons, it can manipulate time-based systems to control fights, reposition itself, and overwhelm enemies before they can properly react. At the same time, it still carries strong conventional firepower and also very durable defenses, so it doesn't really depend only on gimmicks. It is a full warship with layers of offense and survival tools, and along with the Lexington class, this one is also more than a kilometer long. Number 4. The Styx-class. The Styx-class Terran Dreadnought Cruiser in Star Trek Online is twice the size, and it is one of the most intimidating Mirror Universe capital ships. It was built to embody the Terran Empire's doctrine of overwhelming force and psychological dominance. While its exact origins are somewhat mysterious, it is clearly inspired by the earlier massive Terran dreadnoughts like the ISS Charon, carrying forward the idea of a giant, oppressive warship that dominates the battlefield just by appearing. What makes the Styx-class especially dangerous is its combination of heavy dreadnought-level firepower and its large hangar capabilities. It doesn't just fight with its own weapons, as it also deploys powerful Magic-class frigates from inside, which acts like heavy assault escorts rather than, typical small fighters. These launch starships extend its reach and makes it feel like a moving fleet rather than a single vessel. Number 3. The Acheron class. This one is a late evolution of the Terran Empire's supercarrier and also an evolution of the Styx class, but it pushes the concept even further into a mix of carrier warfare and temporal weapon experimentation. In the Mirror Universe, it serves as a flagship-level Imperial Starfleet vessel from the 2400s, designed not just to dominate enemy fleets but to overwhelm them with layered threats, which means it also deploys Terran Magi-class frigates, which function like heavy assault ships than typical fighters, and these come out of the ship, which means the Acheron and the Styx class are both motherships. On top of that, it carries a wide mix of forward and aft weapon mounts, including phasers and chronoton torpedoes, which gives it both sustained firepower and temporal disruption capabilities. It also incorporates advanced systems like the quantum slipstream drive and molecular reconstruction tech, which allows it to move and adapt in ways that earlier dreadnoughts couldn't. On the second spot we have the ISS Imperator. The ISS Imperator was an absolute beast of a ship, built specifically by the cruel Terran Empire to strike fear into anyone who dared to challenge them. What made it completely different from anything you'd find in the peaceful United Federation of Planets was its wild design. Instead of the usual two warp engines that Federation ships use to cruise around through space, this dreadnought packs 4 separate engines to give it terrifying speed and power. It was meant to be the grand flagship of the whole Imperial Starfleet, but things went totally wrong right after it was built in the Antares shipyards, which got targeted by rebels who didn't want the Empire to have that much power. To make matters worse, the Emperor hated how it looked, calling it too big and too ugly to lead the fleet. Under the command of Captain A.G. Robinson, this unique monster of a ship tried to protect Earth during a massive space battle, but it totally got wrecked by an even more advanced USS Define controlled by the Empress Hoshi Sato. And number 1, the ISS Charon. This was a terrifying one-of-a-kind nightmare ship built by the Terran Empire that you would probably absolutely never see in a peaceful Federation. It was launched in the year 2255 under Captain Maddox, and this ship wasn't just big, it was a city-sized floating fortress that actually held the entire royal palace for the ruthless Emperor Filippo Giorgio. It had 17 giant decks packed with barracks for 10 whole battalions of soldiers, with hidden laser cannons in the hallways and a massive prison filled with torture devices called agony booths. Instead of normal engines, it was powered by a giant glowing orange ball in the middle of the ship that sucked energy directly out of space mushrooms from another dimension, which on hindsight was so dangerous that it almost destroyed the entire multiverse. The giant monster used its super missiles to blast rebel planets from space, but his reign of terror ended in 2256 during a palace coup. A bad guy named Gabriel Lorca tried to steal the throne, causing a massive battle that allowed the heroic Federation ship USS Discovery to blow up the Charon's glowing mushroom reactor, completely vaporizing the evil Empire's favorite flagship. And so with that we come to the end of this video on the biggest unique starships of the Terran Empire in Star Trek. Well, from Star Trek Online, which is soft canon, and also from the live action TV series, which are canon in a way. Also, do hit the like button for support and also click the bell button for regular updates on new video uploads. Subscribe to be a part of Legion Notebook, and till the next time, take care, boys.